चल आगे जाते विनोद। क्या डर रहा है?
Around 9 years ago, in an interview with the Times of India, she said, "Sociology teaches you to believe in the possibility of multiple possibilities." As she emerged an artist, the last 2 decades not only saw her potential as an actor, but also a vocal sociologist through her choice of movies and crystal clear
Excuse
opinions.
me.
Through her, we met women who dared to break away from the constructed realities set for them by the society. We met Lalita, Avni, Sabrina, Reshma, Vasudha, Sulochna and Tara. We met Vidya. The art that she's been part of since 1995 will meet the Academia today as she comes in conversation with Samiha Sabnis. We welcome back to XAVIERS College, Vidya Balan.
It's surreal, you know. Firstly, I must say that I was a bit taken aback because I was to get out at the entrance, and I was told, no, please take the car through the Rang Bhavan entrance, and then the car was brought all the way here. I felt like I was being told I'm an outsider now. I wasn't allowed to walk through the corridor, but I'll do that on my way out. But yes, it actually feels lovely to be back.
Thank you so much. I now leave it to the speaker head management, Samiha Sabnis, to conduct the interview. Thank you.
Ma'am, I would first of all thank you for coming and doing this for us. It's a huge honor that I get to interview you. And so the first question I will start off with is, first of all, we are extremely proud that you're a sociology graduate and you've been in our department. So has sociology as a discipline helped you in any way throughout your journey as an actor?
Okay, I like to first where how to sit. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Samiha, for the welcome, and I keep saying that sociology is the reason I believe in the possibility of possibilities, because what sociology taught me is that what is not true for you may be true for someone else, and what is true for you may not be true for someone else. So therefore I think because you study about so many societies and cultures, you realize that you have to have an open mind. You can't judge anyone for their practices, for their cultural practices, for their norms and their mores and all of that. And that opens up your mind, and that as an actor I think is a very, very useful lesson. So yes, I think sociology has definitely helped me.
So ma'am, the discipline of sociology also comes with a certain ethics of its own, that we see a world from a certain different, say, analytical, critical perspective. And has it ever happened to you? Because we've been discussing this whenever we watch a film.
I'd say I've been very fortunate that I've done work that's in line with my beliefs, but not that I haven't had the opportunity to do other work. You know, but it's a choice I made that I only do work I believe in. For example, for me, even, especially in the past, I think 12 years, I've had the chance to tell stories of women who come into their own, who find their voice, who find their strength. So, even if they start out weak and vulnerable at the beginning, by the end of it, they've come a full circle. So I think those kind of stories I veer towards. I've had the opportunity to do other stuff, but I've chosen not to do it. I've tried dabbling in it for a bit, but I found it absolutely inconsequential and, with no disrespect meant, insipid, which is why I didn't do it. But yes, sometimes when I watch movies also, I'm like, they're not in keeping with my beliefs. But I will say this, that there has been, I've observed that over the years I've matured as a person. So previously it used to be all black and white, but today I've come to understand. I'll give you the example of a film called Kabir Singh. There was huge uproar when Kabir Singh released, people felt that, you know, how can you glorify a character like that of Kabir Singh, because he was absolutely disrespectful, violent towards women, and there was, previously I would have had the same reaction. But today, I feel that it's not glorifying it. It's telling the story of a Kabir Singh, and there are enough Kabir Singhs in the world, you know, especially in our country. So I'm okay with that. I make a choice not to be a Kabir Singh. As a person, that choice is mine. But will I not go to the theatre and watch a Kabir Singh? Of course I will. So I think I've also kind of matured. And I have to, you know, interrupt this by saying I'm very thrilled that my professor, VIDYA Bhatia, is here. And I used to do a paper with ma'am called Women in Society. So I'm thrilled that she's here for my talk. And sorry, Pranoti, I got so excited by this entire, you know, Pranoti was actually my junior. And she's head of department today. How cool is that? But that also means I get to publicly bully her. No, not bully, I'll tease you. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry for the digression.
No, of course. So, because we're on the topic, so there's this always like a chicken and an egg story when it comes to, say, media responsibility. So, according to you, the responsibility of, say, proper representation.
I think, you know, when we talk about audience demand, we have to realize that the audience comprises you and me. We almost talk about the audience like as if they're an alien entity. So what the audience demands come from us. You know, I think as far as we understand that, we'll put out content that is true to us. So, like I'm saying, you know, someone will put out a Kabir Singh, someone else will put out a Mission Mangal, someone else will put out some other film. So I think gone are the days when you could get away with shoddy content and blame it on the audience ko yehi achhi lagti hai. You know, we are all, I think, very astute and mature today. We know exactly what we want, and because I think it's of course a chain reaction, a lot of things have changed around us. So the content has become very varied. There's an audience for every kind of story, for all kinds of content, you know, which is also why you have the OTT platforms today. So it's not just your films, but there are things that you may not go to the theatre and watch, which you'll watch on your Netflix, you know, Amazon, your Hotstar or whatever. So I think it's, and the responsibility therefore is also shared responsibility. You know, I think it's not so much just the responsibility of the makers. It's also what audiences respond to that encourage the makers to go out. It's a two-way process, really. But I think as long as even the makers realize that they're part of an audience, you know, I think there is no issue. But when people begin to think that they're, you know, kingmakers who are bailing out stuff for people to watch, that's where there is the issue of, am I answering you adequately?
Yes, definitely.
Because sometimes I tend to get so, I talk a lot, so I go all over the place, yeah.
So the next question is, recently there was a debate that I saw which was talking about like all female-centric films are not necessarily feminist. So there was this one doubt that came in my head that do men or any other gender, do they have any space in feminist cinema? Can we have a feminist film without a female protagonist?
Wow, that is an absolutely stunning question. I would want that because, you know, male-centric films have always had men. So, as a woman and as an actor, I don't want female-centric films not to have women. That's where we hold center stage most often. So, I think that's not a scenario I'd like. But it's something, you know, to think about really. I've never thought about it. You're right, that every female-centric film is not a feminist film. But really, what is feminist also needs to be revisited, you know, because I keep saying this, and I'm only saying I keep saying this because, you know, I have the opportunity to travel all over the country and engage with people, and I've realized over time that, you know, what is empowerment, what is feminism really is very, very subjective. It depends on what context you come from. So a certain step I take today may seem like a feminist step, you know, but maybe for a person who comes from a village, maybe the back of beyond somewhere, a smaller step, like I keep saying this, you know, just to lift your ghungat and walk with your head held high may be seen as a feminist step or an empowered step. So really, it has to be contextualized.
Ma'am, on a similar topic, so whenever you've given a certain script, what are the kinds of elements that you are looking for? How do you choose your character?
I think any character that really calls out to me when, you know, when it's being read out or when I'm reading it, if I see myself in the role that's being offered to me, it's great. You know, for the longest time, every time a story was being narrated, I saw myself in the character of the male hero. And I realized that the narrative has to change for us female actors because, you know, I tended to get attracted to the most powerful role in the story, and I realized it belonged to the men. Thankfully, that narrative is changing, and but it's something that, you know, instinctively calls out to me. It's something that, as an audience, I ask myself: is this something you'd want to go and watch in the theater? You know, is this a story you'd like to tell? Is this a story you'd like to tell, being the character that's being offered to you? And then, of course, other considerations come into play. You know, who you're going to be working with, director, producer, how much money they're paying you. All these things matter. But most importantly, I think, I tend to, like I said, I tend to get drawn towards women characters that have a certain arc, who come into their own, who discover something about themselves. Maybe because I'm constantly discovering something about myself, I tend to get drawn to women like that.
So, ma'am, after the selection, as the process goes, we hear words, we don't know really, but from the perspective of, say, characterization, you go through a certain process of research, and this has always bothered me whenever I try to, you know, learn acting as well, that whenever an actor tries to do background research per se for any character, can an actor's personal bias affect their portrayal of certain characters? Do you have to be completely neutral when you approach a character?
You know, that's not humanly possible because I am me and I'm playing someone else. But I think as you work more and more with more experience, with a certain amount of maturity maybe, you can separate. That happened with me on The Dirty Picture. You know, previously I would have been very judgmental of a person like Silk. She used her body to get ahead in her career, and that was absolutely unacceptable to me. But every time I went and sat with the director Milan Luthria, the only thing he'd tell me was, I'd say, you know, tell me about her as a person. Is she impulsive? Does she get angry when what angers her? You know, all these questions that I would want to talk to him about it, and he would not give me any answer. He'd just say, you know, if you judge her, everyone will. And remember, if you judge her, she'll end up looking sleazy. If you embrace her, she'll end up looking sexy. And I was like, you know, quotable quote, yes. But I didn't quite get the purport of what he was saying. I think he kept saying it, but when I started doing the film, I actually realized what he meant, because I needed to put myself out there in a way that I had never done before, not even in the confines of my own house, in front of the mirror in my house. I had to be that brazen bodily. And if there was any kind of shame or awkwardness that I felt, it would show in my performance. If it showed in my performance, that's what really differentiates what makes sleazy versus what makes sexy. You can be, really clothed from top to toe, but your attitude can make you sexy. And you can wear close to nothing, and you may not end up looking sexy, you may end up looking sleazy. And this is still, I'm talking about appearance, but what you actually put out there is a reflection of what's going inside, which is why I'm using sleazy and sexy for easy adjectives. But I think that the dirty picture changed the way I think I looked at women who choose different paths from the way I did or I do. I think it was fascinating for me, it was liberating for me, it was so freeing. Because when you stop judging someone else, actually what you're doing is you stop judging yourself. And I think that is the most beautiful gift that film gave me. So yes, it's very difficult to get rid of bias, but with experience, like I said, it makes you realize the possibility of possibilities. So yes, this is not who I am, this is who she is. And that doesn't make her wrong. It just makes her different from me.
So ma'am, based on your answer, what I see it as that every actor...
And you can clap once in a while, actors love it. You're awake when I finish an answer.
So yeah, ma'am, like you said, that you go through story to story, you go from character to character, and you're almost like you're living multiple lives in just one. So an actor has perhaps an experience in many different spheres, many different lives, and they do research. They, like for you, if you take your example, they do come from academic background. But this is one thing that has bothered me in recent times, is that whenever an actress tries to speak her mind in terms of, say, a social cause or a political opinion per se, I feel like they're not taken that seriously, because from the end of media you get ye to PR stunt hai, ya phir from the end of media you get something like why don't you just do your work. And from the end of us as well, somewhere I feel that in academia the knowledge that comes from a person's experience is not considered very clinical enough. So do you think that there should be a middle ground where even actresses are taken seriously?
I just think we should just let people be. And that's, it sounds so simple, but it's a really tall order. I think we're constantly judging each other. I know that there is, I feel it's, on the one hand, there is a pressure, there's lots of trolling of people when they express their views, when they stand up for a cause. They're asked, what is your credibility? Why don't you just stick to what you're doing? On the other hand, there is an inverse bullying where people who don't want to express their views are being bullied into saying something. I think both are equally wrong. I have the right not to, it's a democracy, and a democracy allows me the freedom to open my mouth or keep shut as I please. I don't think anyone should be telling anyone else what to do. I think that's what, and female actors, I think, have been more vocal in a lot of ways. Male actors don't open their mouths at all. No, it is true, which is why we are being told, oh, why don't you stick to what you're doing, and all sorts of things, and there are being threats issued and all of that. And that's only because they're, threatening the status quo. People are worried that tomorrow, and I'm not just saying men are worried, I'm saying people are worried that tomorrow their daughters, their sisters, their mothers, their wives, their girlfriends, their friends are going to stand up in arms and again question what is happening around them. I think that is where it comes from. It comes from that deep-seated fear that the status quo is being challenged. But importantly, I think that whoever wants to express should be able to express. And in the same vein, I'll say that, peaceful protests are something that our constitution allows us. So as long as I'm not being violent, I should be able to say or do whatever, I'm doing. It is my right. It is enshrined in the constitution. And I think we should all just probably, before anything else, actually go through the constitution and see what our rights are. And I mean everyone across the board, not just as citizens, but everyone in the country must do that.
So ma'am, you also spoke about the web media coming in, and it has been seen as the equalizer because with web you have a lot of job opportunities being created in media, and not just female actors but also women writers and directors are like coming in large numbers. So do you think working with a female writer or director is in any way different than say a
Oh,
male?
it is, and I've just had my first experience. I've done a film which tells the story of the mathematician, the human computer Shakuntala Devi, which I also shot for in XAVIERS, by the way. And that's been written and directed by Anu Menon. So it's my first experience with a female director. And I think it's just, I don't want to make any gender generalizations, but I do think that because women's experiences are probably, every individual's experience is different, but I'm saying women's experiences and men's experiences, or their perspective or the way they look at the world does tend to differ. So I think I'd like to see this, what you called, it's been called some kind of an equalizer. I think that I'd like to see happening across the board. I definitely think we've got more writers, directors, technicians in film. They're of course not even 0.1% of the entire industry, but where we didn't have any, we at least have some more. But I think it's also, women tend to, and again this may be a generalization, but I think the women's perspectives are a little more nuanced, which is why probably they're finding more opportunities on the digital platforms, which allow you to have a more nuanced narrative, whereas in film you need it to be little more simplistic. But we women, we get called complicated all the time, and I'm using the word nuance, but maybe because of that, we tend to look at the world in a more, I don't know, it's not through the male gaze. Maybe that's all that makes the difference.
Ma'am, on the topic of say gender equality or say gender neutrality per se, do you think the whole, when we approach Bollywood, even from a sociological lens, we always have this, oh, this is a male gaze versus this is a female-centric cinema. Is it about time that we also create a certain space for those who perhaps don't want to consider themselves male or female? That there's no space other than this gender binary.
That will happen. But I remember on Women's Day last year, we were having this conversation. It was panel discussion about why call women-centric films, and I said, what is the problem? When it becomes the norm, we'll stop calling it anyway, but it's not yet the norm. If we stop calling it that, probably it'll just get obliterated under the weight of all the male-centric works that's happening, So let's go out on a limb and call it female. I've been doing female-centric films for the past 12 years. I'm very happy, I'm very proud, and I'd want to continue to do that until it reaches a stage where there are enough number of films where it doesn't matter whose story you're going to see. You just walk into the theatre and go to, watch a certain film, and not because it's female-centric or it's a hero-centric film, a male-centric film. That will happen, but as of now, I think we should shy away from it.